be unable to go see a doctor when they need one. And yet Republicans continue to bury their heads in the sand and are unwilling to address the affordability crisis that is crushing the American people. This from a group of folks, these extremist Republicans, who spent all of last year lying to the American people, saying to everyday Americans that they were going to lower costs on day one. But we know under Donald Trump and complete Republican control of the House and the Senate, costs haven't gone down in America, costs have gone up. Housing costs, out of control. Grocery costs, out of control. Electricity bills, out of control. And now healthcare premiums, skyrocketing, out of control because of Republican inaction and an unwillingness to do anything to make life better for the American people. The Trump tariffs have been a complete disaster. As we approach Thanksgiving and the holiday season, food costs are skyrocketing through the roof, and everyday Americans are experiencing thousands of dollars in additional expense. The economic policies of Donald Trump and the Republican Party have been a complete and total failure. That's why they were routed across the country, thoroughly destroyed by the electorate in state after state after state, because they've done nothing to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, and they've done everything to make life more expensive. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Earlier today, President Trump posted on Truth Social with regard, I'm trying to pull it up, with regard to the Indiana Republicans not redistricting their map, that Democrats are trying to steal seats everywhere, and we're not going to let that happen. I want to get your response to that. I also want to get your response to him saying we must keep the majority at all costs. How do you interpret that message, and do you believe that Democrats should fight back against that effort at all costs, or what lines are there for Democrats responding to this effort of Donald Trump pressing Indiana Republicans and other Republican state legislators to redraw their maps to kind of steal seats, as you've characterized it, from Democrats in 2026?
Yeah, we've made clear from the very beginning that as Democrats, we are not going to let Donald Trump and Republicans gerrymander congressional maps all across the country as part of their effort to rig the midterm elections. Why has Donald Trump launched this extraordinary and unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps throughout the country? They're the ones that claimed heading into this year they had this big, broad, beautiful mandate. Where is it? It was nowhere to be found on Election Day. Destroyed in Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Mississippi, in California with Prop 50, up and down the ballot and all across the country. The reason why Donald Trump is in full panic mode is because he knows the majority in the House of Representatives is gone. And he's doing everything he can to try to cheat his way to an artificial victory. By the way, this same group of people, this is the lesson that they learned. We came into this year and everyone was talking about how the Democratic Party was dead. Really? As far as I can tell, in the House, the only reason why Republicans have their narrow majority right now is because they stole 3 seats from the people of North Carolina in mid-decade redistricting last year. That's the lesson that they've learned. Because their policies are unpopular, the outcomes are unpopular, they've delivered nothing for the American people. These folks have been a complete and total disaster. And Democrats are the ones leaning in to making life better for the American people, to driving down the high cost of living, to confronting the Republican health care crisis and cleaning up corruption so we actually can deliver a government that makes life better for the American people. So Donald Trump is in full and complete panic mode right now. And so he's lashing out at the people of Indiana, apparently, and beyond. Because these extremists didn't think that Democrats were going to forcefully respond. But I said it from this podium months ago, when people were trying to suggest that Democrats did not have the capacity to deal with this issue. Guess what? We did. And now we've seen action in California. We're going to see action in other states like Virginia and Maryland and Illinois. We've seen action in Utah. We see a lawsuit in New York. We're going to continue to forcefully and creatively respond. It's not even clear that Republicans are going to net a single seat when this is all said and done. As a matter of fact, it might even be the opposite. And it will serve them well. They started this, we're finishing it.
Leader. Mr. Leader, two questions. One on health care. The president said over the weekend that he's had some conversations with Democrats about some type of direct payment plan, giving money back to people. Have you had any conversations with the president, or are you aware if he's had any conversations with members? And then secondly, on Epstein, the president also just said a short time ago that he might be willing to sign this measure if it clears both chambers. If that is the case, are you comfortable with whatever information is in the Epstein files if it involves or potentially implicates Democrats?
Donald Trump appears to have chickened out on the Epstein scandal. He's caved. It's a complete and total surrender. Because as Democrats, we made clear from the very beginning, the survivors and the American people deserve full and complete transparency as it relates to the lives that were ruined by Jeffrey Epstein, who was a monster, and all of those folks who were dealing with him. The wealthy and the well-off. And people who are going to be exposed in full transparency. That's been our commitment from the very beginning. And it's closer to happening this week. The House will act decisively, the Senate needs to act, and Donald Trump just needs to step out of the way and let the chips fall where they may. Now, in terms of the first part of your question, I have no idea what Donald Trump is talking about. I certainly haven't had a conversation with him. I have no visibility into Leader Schumer having a conversation with him. I don't know a single member of the House Democratic Caucus who's had a conversation with Donald Trump. These people continue to bury their heads in the sand and then lie to the American people. This is not that complicated. Time has run out as it relates to extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. The most viable path forward is for those Republicans, all we need is a handful, to join our discharge petition, just like a handful joined the discharge petition related to Jeffrey Epstein and those files. All we need is a few Republicans to join the House Democratic Caucus discharge petition, and we can extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years to provide the American people with the certainty that they need that their health care costs are not going to explode.
Jeffries.
Leader Jeffries.
Hold on. Thanks. Third row.
Thank you. Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez has moved to formally disapprove of Congressman Jesus Troy Garcia for his kind of maneuvering with his reelection bid. I'm curious what's your stance on that and whether you're telling Democrats to vote against formally reprimanding him.
I strongly support the motion to table that will be brought this evening, and I expect that it will succeed.
Leader Jeffries.
Thanks. Third row.
Do you think that the manner in which Congressman Garcia retired abruptly for only his chief of staff to take his place, do you think that was wrong?
Here's what I think. The American people are focused on the high cost of living in the United States of America. That's what they're focused on. The affordability crisis, that's what the results were all about during the first Tuesday of this month, when Republicans were select throughout the country. Because they had failed on the economy, and Democrats actually have a vision all over the country to drive down the high cost of living and deal with the affordability crisis that exists in the United States of America. As House Democrats, that's what we're going to continue to focus on. I do not support this so-called resolution of disapproval, and I strongly support Congressman Chuy Garcia. He's been a progressive champion in disenfranchised communities for decades, including during his time in Congress, and he's made life better for the American people. Thanks.
Thanks, Leader. You put forward a 3-year extension proposal for ACA subsidies. Some Republicans have put forward alternative proposals that don't go as far in terms of the time, the length. I'm wondering, would you be willing to potentially accept or work through a negotiation on a shorter amount of time frame, if you end up getting Republicans' support for something like that?
Time has run out in terms of the games that Republicans have played as it relates to extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now in July, Republicans rushed back to Washington. Why? So they could enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. In the same bill, they ripped $186 billion in funding from SNAP, the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history. And in doing so, literally stole food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans, and all of that was done, setting in motion closures of hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers. All of that was done in that one big ugly bill. Why? So that Republicans could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. And then they made those tax breaks permanent. Those massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors, they were scheduled to expire on December 31st, the same day as the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. But Republicans could not be bothered to keep health care affordable for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. These extremists are unserious. And they refuse to take yes for an answer over and over and over again. Leader Schumer put forth a very reasonable proposal, a 1-year extension, plus a bipartisan commission to discuss what happens relative to health care affordability moving forward. Republicans rejected it because they're unserious. And so our proposal about the path forward is our proposal about the path forward. A clean 3-year extension.
Leader Jeffries. Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, "Good job."
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency, and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. New York City Councilman Chi Osei filed paperwork today to run against you to represent Brooklyn. He has said that Democratic leadership has failed to effectively fight against President Donald Trump. What's your response?
Come on in, the water is warm.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. I wanted to ask, Representative Burchett and Speaker Johnson alleged that Democrats blocked the UC last week to release the Epstein files. Any comment on that? And did Democrats block that unanimous?
I have no idea what Mike Johnson is talking about. He didn't pick up the phone and call me about a damn thing relative to the Epstein files. This guy has been blocking the release of the Epstein files for 7 or 8 weeks. The House has literally been out of session. Republicans have been on a taxpayer-funded vacation for 7+ weeks, refused to swear in Representative Adelita Grijalva. Why did they do that? Because they knew she would trigger an up or down vote on the release of the Epstein files, as she has now done. And we're supposed to believe Mike Johnson's crying wolf now, saying all along it was Republicans who wanted to release the Epstein files? Give me a break. It's not serious. These people are not serious. And we shouldn't tolerate the fact that they continue to lie to the American people on all of the things, on all of the issues. Their lies is what has gotten them in trouble. It's the reason why Republicans were beaten like a piñata on Election Day across America. and why Republicans are gonna lose control of the House of Representatives next year, as I predicted earlier this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. So there's been some backlash over the shutdown ending, people calling Democrats cowardly or spineless. So I wanted to ask, ahead of midterms, what's next for the party from here?
Who has suggested that? And who have they said that about?
There's been a lot of,
I'm just asking for the sources. I can't answer a question unless you actually give me the sources so I understand the context of what you're talking about. Was that directed at House Democrats?
it's directed at House Democrats, Senate Democrats, Democrats in office. There's just a lot of online murmurings on TikTok, X, everywhere.
Online murmurings on TikTok and X aren't anything that I can respond to. What I can respond to is the fact that Democrats in the House, partnering with Democrats in the Senate, have waged a courageous battle on behalf of the health care of the American people, fighting to protect Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, our hospitals, our nursing homes, our community-based health centers, and the fact that it's Democrats who believe in this great country of ours that access to high-quality and affordable health care cannot simply be a privilege that is available only to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. Healthcare has to be a right that's available to every single American. And the American people know that we're on their side in the context of that healthcare fight. And by the way, Democrats have been winning elections despite all of the exaggerated news of our demise since January of this year with the special election in Iowa. That was in January, in a district that Donald Trump had just won by 21 points. And then we won a special election in New York by 30 points. In February, a special election in Pennsylvania. And then we won a special election in Wisconsin, a state that Donald Trump had just won. That was in April. And we won it by 11 points. In Wisconsin, a swing state. That never happens. In April, and then in May, we won a special election in Omaha, defeated a 3-term Republican incumbent, elected the first African-American ever to be the mayor of the all-American city of Omaha. On and on and on. Since January, what do you not get about what's happening in America? And the fact that the American people have rejected Republican extremism, and over and over and over again, time and time again, through the most recent election, embracing Democratic candidates, the Democratic platform, and the Democratic Party.
Our House
Sorry,
Dem-
Kevin, and then
Obviously, there's no commitment at this point for any sort of action on this Epstein bill over on the Senate side. If it gets a veto-proof majority, if we're talking 100-some-odd Republicans and they don't take it up over there, what does that tell you? What is your reaction?
well, I think it's going to be important for Senate Republicans to follow the lead of what is going to be a strongly bipartisan vote in the House. Obviously led by Representative Massey and by Rowe. And I'm thankful for the leadership of both of them. But it's going to be strongly bipartisan in the House, and it probably will be a veto-proof number, certainly given the fact that Donald Trump has just caved once again, spectacularly and publicly, and now wants to pretend, lie to the American people, that Donald Trump all along has been interested in the Epstein files released. Really? Literally, just a few days ago, you summoned Lauren Boebert to the Situation Room to try to continue the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. Think about this. This is where we're at in America. John F. Kennedy, who created the Situation Room and was in the Situation Room in 1963 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Bill Clinton, in the Situation Room, dealing with the tragedy of the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. President Barack Obama, in the Situation Room in 2011, during the successful raid on Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. But in 2025, This is what it's come to in America. Donald Trump is using the Situation Room to advance the cover-up of the Jeffrey Epstein files. This is why Republicans are being rejected all across the country. These are both unserious and dangerous people at the same time. Thanks.
Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman is meeting with the president tomorrow, and there's talk of him coming to the Hill. If you had the opportunity, would you participate in such a meeting? And just in general, what's your response to him coming up here?
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to formally review any invitation relative to a possible visit to the Hill, but, you know, I'll review it in good faith, as we always do with respect to foreign leaders.
Do you have any concern, just given his involvement in previous years in the killing of the Washington Post journalist?
I look forward to having that conversation with Gregory Meeks and Adam Smith and Jim Himes about what will be the appropriate approach.
Thank you.
The clock's already ticking towards January 30th. Can you report on any progress on the appropriations bills? Are we making any progress on minibus 2? You know, the Senate's going to be out for Thanksgiving, Christmas. I'm just wondering if we're going to be facing another shutdown sort of scenario.
Well, our approach as it relates to the upcoming government funding deadline on January 30th is going to be the same as it's always been. We reject a my way or the highway approach. But we, of course, as Democrats, are willing to lean in to finding a bipartisan path forward to enact a spending bill that meets the needs of the American people in the area of health, public safety, and their economic well-being, which means finding ways to drive down the high cost of living and reverse the failed Republican policies that have made life more expensive in the United States of America. At the same period of time, the deadline that we're focused on, well in advance of January 30th of next year, is December 31st of this year. It's time for Republicans to actually do something to make life more affordable for the American people. And the path in front of us is to partner with Democrats and extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that tens of millions of people do not experience their health insurance premiums dramatically increasing to the point of unaffordability. Because if that happens, it affects everybody across America. In fact, I think the 10 states most impacted if the Affordable Care Act tax credits are allowed by Republicans to expire are West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, South Carolina, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The 10 states most impacted by the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. So this is not a partisan issue for us. This is a patriotic fight to protect the health care affordability of the American people in the midst of a devastating Republican health care crisis that is ruining lives, including in rural America, all across our great country. Thank you all. Thank
Leader,
you.
if the president's name is not found in the Epstein files, will you accept that?
We're gonna do a baby. Oh, yeah, right, so that is. Their birthday's the 28th, but stay tuned.